The Shark Deck.
Hey, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Was Johnny Mac right? From Variety, Comedy Central going back to square one in its efforts to find a new host for The Daily Show. You may recall there was a rumor that Hasan Minhaj was the leading candidate. The new rumor, they saw the Hasan Minhaj stuff that I've been talking about on the pod, and they were like, maybe he's not right for The Daily Show. Variety says the Paramount Global Cable Network is considering a wider array of candidates to take the reins from Trevor Noah. After having previously identified Hasan Minhaj as a leading possibility, the decision appears to come in the wake of a recent report in The New Yorker in which some of the supposed autobiography stories that Minhaj told in his routines were found to be embellished. Sources say Minhaj remains in the mix of people being considered, but executives are also poring over audio research tied to recent guests. But they want to have a new host in time for the start of 2024. That's when they'll do Indecision 24, and yeah, they gotta get moving here. It's October now, guys, and you're not gonna do shows the second half of December. Roy Wood Jr., you still interested? Speaking of Trevor Noah, kind of, sort of, more from his India tour, fans of international comedian Trevor Noah were left disappointed after a show in Bengaluru was canceled last minute due to technical issues. The show was supposed to start at 7:30. It started nearly 30 minutes late and then abruptly ended after many audience members couldn't hear anything because of, quote, bad acoustics. Trevor Noah went on Twitter and expressed his apologies for causing inconvenience and disappointment. Trevor wrote, "Dear Bengaluru, India, I was so looking forward to performing in your amazing city, but due to technical issues, we've been forced to cancel both shows. We tried everything, but because the audience can't hear the comedians on stage, there's literally no way to do a show. We'll make sure all the ticket holders receive a full refund. And again, I'm so sorry for both the inconvenience and disappointment. This has never happened to us before." I found a clip of the audio. Now, I'll remind you, this whole story is about bad audio. So the clip I'm going to play, the audio's terrible. That all makes sense, right? You'll hear Trevor talking about slapback. Slapback is when you're talking and then the speakers slap the audio back to you. So you say hello, and then like half a second later, you hear your own voice saying hello. If you've ever had that in your headphones, it's extremely distracting. So I can see why Trevor wouldn't be able to perform with that. But let's listen.
So I'm still here, but we've got that clapback. I don't know if we can get more than a sentence out. Hold on, let me find out. Let's see here.
Sam Morril talked about traveling. He doesn't drive. Sam said, "You think it'd be a problem, but not really. I can get anywhere flying, by train, by car, especially at this point. I could bring someone to drive. I mean, the only time you feel it is when you're in some small town and they're like, oh, we don't have Uber." And you're like, you don't have Uber? I remember I was leaving a gig in Appleton, Wisconsin, and I had to leave reasonably early for flights. I thought, this is a small town. This will be easy. I call. There's like one Uber in the whole town, and he's 31 minutes away. He's completing a drive, but he's just doing it for everyone. So I was panicking, and the guy at the front desk of the hotel saw me panicking and said, "What can I do to help you?" And I said, "I'm panicking because I don't want to miss my flight." And he said, "I'll drive you." And I was like, "You don't have to worry about the hotel." And he's like, "Nah, there's another guy." And Sam said, "I thought, if this is how I get murdered, I kind of deserve it." Did you see the recent Kevin James internet meme? If you've been on social media, you'll see an old promotional headshot that Kevin did for the King of Queens back in the 90s. He's shrugging with both hands in his pockets, and he's kind of grinning. So Kevin has renamed his tour the Double Hands in the Pocket Tour, which he says is sheepishly coming to a city near you. Variety had a long profile with Dan Harmon, the creator of Community and Rick and Morty and some other stuff. They wrote, "There was a time not too long ago when Dan Harmon shared absolutely everything. A life of transparency," he reasoned, "was therapeutic, healthy even for a guy who'd routinely describe himself as self-loathing and self-destructive. Then the culture changed," Harmon said. "It stopped being punk rock to just say anything." Variety writes, "It's not hard to see that Harmon views the Community movie as his chance to right some of his wrongs, both with the show's fans, whom he acknowledges have endured more than they likely bargained for in supporting him in his drama queen ways, and with his cast, all of whom, except for Chevy Chase, are set to return." Variety says that Harmon and his writers still need to hole up for a few days and finish the script. They pitched it pre-pandemic as a Greendale Community College reunion, and they're committed to getting into a place where they can shoot as is without possible rewrites. Harmon said, I don't want these now superstar people like Emmy-winning Donald Glover who are bothering to gather out of loyalty to this thing to come back and once again be getting blue pages run down by an intern that totally contradict what they spent all night memorizing. I want to have a veneer of, here's your reward. I don't want them to go like, oh, he's learned nothing and he's treating us like cattle again. The piece also talks about Rick and Morty, writing, Harmon had all but killed himself making Community, only to feel like he was constantly letting people down. Now he had a partner in Adult Swim that actively wanted to be in business with him. It wasn't until season 2 that everything started to change. Harmon brought in more writers. He says, if anything, what I wanted was for Justin Roiland and I to both be able to be increasingly lazy and not show up for work. That was the dream, would be these rich idea men. He could roll around and go like, what if a genie had a butt instead of a penis? And I could be like, yeah, and plus we're going to make people cry about it, and that's going to make them freak out. It's a story about a genie butt penis, and then we'd win an Emmy, and it would be more ironic than ever. Harmon says, but I found out later that it was like, oh, Harmon brought in his Harmon writers, and it's not how I saw it. Roiland started to pull back during season 2. As the season wrapped, Roiland sat down with Harmon and acknowledged just how miserable he'd become working at the show. The implication was it was all Harmon's fault. Harmon says, honestly, I wasn't sure what he was saying, other than maybe I feel like I'm in your shadow and I wish I wasn't. Tim Dillon was on Piers Morgan and talked about Harry and Meghan. By the way, if you like people that make fun of Harry and Meghan, check out Palace Intrigue. That's the podcast I'm the writer on. We make fun of Harry and Meghan all the time. We even did this very story on Palace Intrigue, wherever you get your shows. Tim Dillon told Piers Morgan, it's very interesting to make a 3-part documentary on Netflix about how bad things are while living in a castle. I find the lack of self-awareness there to be very fun. I mean, they're very funny. Victimhood, it makes me laugh. And when someone is clearly not a victim, and I think living in a castle, being part of a royal family would make you not a victim, they make me laugh. I hope they keep behaving shamefully. It's great for the tabloids. It's great for us. From Chortle, cult comedian Neil Hamburger has released the second single from his concept album about patrons trapped in an average chain hotel. It's called Sleeping for Free, and it features the vocals of Frank Sinatra's granddaughter, AJ Lambert. AJ is the daughter of Nancy Sinatra. Record label Drag City says the record sounds like a silky LA production, circa 1976. It frames the complaints about the endless parade of noisy, smelling, and non-paying guests. The album is called Seasonal Depression Suite. It's a musical about characters wallowing in self-pity and paranoia, reliving personal catastrophes, both real and imagined, or simply trying to use the hotel vending machine. Seasonal Depression Suite, November 17th. Hey, I want to thank you guys. The download numbers for September were fantastic. This thing is really starting to catch now. Really appreciate you listening every day. I've been listening to other podcasts. I'm on a real Mark Maron kick. I feel like he's just been in a groove. His interviews have been really strong lately. I particularly enjoyed one with Aparna and Shirla. And they had like a real conversation. And Maron started talking about how much he loves being on stage because it allows him to do what like he wants to do without worrying about others. And that's kind of how I feel about this show. Like, I've had a whole corporate career, but Daily Comedy News, whether you like it or not, or you're like, John, that commercial read you just did was 9 minutes long. What the hell's wrong with you? Stop. I get to do what I want. I don't have a boss telling me, hey, the commercial reads are too long. You should cut them back. See, I can do 20 minutes. I'm the boss. I love it. So I hear you, Mark Maron. So that's Aparna and Shirla's episode. Now, he did have someone else on, and that guest, and it doesn't matter who the guest is, I'm not here to bash the particular guest, went in and didn't answer anything for real. Maron would ask a question, and the guest would answer with a joke, trying to be funny. That's not what Mark Maron's podcast is, so that guest kind of blew that appearance. It was so bad, I was out for the 19-mile run, and, that takes several hours. And I had to stop. The phone sits in a Velcro armband on my arm, and it's hard to futz with that while running. So I stopped and had to just skip the episode. Couldn't take it. Give Maron real answers if you're on. David Letterman is on Strike Force 5. I didn't get to that episode yet, but definitely in my queue. We'll see if that podcast continues. I guess it's over now with Late Night back. Chortle says David Mitchell has ruled out a reunion of Peep Show. Peep Show is a fantastic sitcom. I don't think it's streaming right now. Let me check for you. There's a website, by the way, called Just Watch that will tell you where things are. Peep Show had been on Hulu, which is where I was watching it. Let's see. Right now, you can stream it on Fubo. I guess you'll have to sit through commercials. Same thing on Roku and Tubi and Pluto TV. All right, so it's on all of those. You can buy it on Amazon. Freevee has 4 of the 9 seasons. Freevee is usually not too bad with the commercials. But anyway, Peep Show is fantastic and won't be coming back. The first episode aired 20 years ago. But Mitchell said he will not be reuniting with Robert Webb. Olivia Colman, she was on the show as well, or Matt King to celebrate. He told Graham Norton, "Nope, we are not organizing an event. I'm very proud of it, but having made it so long ago, it reminds me of my own mortality." Previously, he and Webb had talked about the idea of revisiting their characters of Mark and Jez in old age. Webb said, "We've always said it would be funny to go back and see them as old men living in the same flat and having the same arguments. I think probably this side of, shall we say, 70? It's nice that people still give a hoot. I don't want to tack anything onto the end of it. It would have to be a totally separate thing. I wouldn't want it to drag the original thing down." Mitchell was promoting his new show Unruly, which is his book about the history of English royalty. Hey, that's going to help me over on Palace Intrigue. Mitchell said, "I love history and I love kings and queens. I'm particularly interested in the a-holes and crowns that did dreadful things that really weren't funny at the time, but it happened so long ago, we can now laugh at him." Here's a random thing I saw on PortlandMercury.com. They wrote, "Are you looking for a hilarious live comedy show where you can walk away with a fabulous prize or two while you're in luck? Because Mercury geniuses of comedy Arlo Weisenhower and Kate Murphy are your hosts for the most diabolical, hilarious, and evil live game show in town, Two Evils." This is pretty good copy. It totally wrote me in. This is like a minor thing, but I'm like, all right, I'm intrigued. Join Arlo and Kate as they ask a series of truly evil questions. And it's up to the special guest contestant and the audience who will vote on their phones to decide which is the lesser of two very evil answers. The guest for the Halloween-themed episode, Kyle Kinane. Good booking there. So if you're in Portland, hit the Siren Theater on Wednesday, October 11th. Luke Null is taping his special at Dynasty Typewriter in L.A. today. 800-pound gorilla says from his early days of picking up a guitar in Chicago, Luke Null discovered his knack for blending witty humor with catchy earworms. Wait. This style caught the attention of none other than Lorne Michaels himself, leading to a life-changing opportunity as a cast member on Saturday Night Live. Someone named Luke Null was on Saturday Night Live. When was this? Google machine, help us out. All right, here's a Vulture article from 2018. Luke Null looks back on his very short time at SNL. I do not recognize his face. Vulture said, when you were first hired for SNL, the online consensus was that we'd see your musical side at some point. Luke Null said, I wish I effing knew, man. Vulture, I assumed we'd see you on Update playing guitar, like what Sandler or Fallon used to do. Null said, I certainly tried. It's weird. Even though they hired me and I do a lot of music, they did not hire me to do music. They made that pretty clear. They liked a lot of the other stuff I did. I auditioned twice and they hired me for that. The music stuff, I think, was more sprinkles on top. They don't give me any feedback. It took 13 weeks for me trying to pitch stuff like, okay, they don't want this. Good follow-up by Vulture. So you never had a conversation with the Update guys? Of course I did. It's one of those places, especially when you're a freshman cast member, where you don't have much sway to be like, why can't I do something? Because it's your first year, and Kate McKinnon isn't in the show much this week, so she's going to do Update. So for me, to get something in an Update, I had to absolutely be one of the best people to pitch that week, but a lot of other people had to have a bad week. Even if I do great, I'm the lowest man on the totem pole. I had a few Updates that were cut for time, cut at dress rehearsal, but none of them were songs. Vulture, is there anything you know now, having been on SNL, that you wish knew going in? Null said, I was only ever there 1 year. I had one season, and you definitely have a lot of questions looking back. Did I do something wrong? Was I not writing good enough stuff? Honestly, looking back, knowing how the show works, the mechanism and the politics and its energy, it's a very tense and stressful place. No one there is having fun. I'm fascinated by this. All right, Vulture said, fans felt like you didn't get a chance. Do you agree? Null said, I think the show's producer would probably agree with that. It's probably the biggest cast and biggest writing staff they ever had, so it's a bloated and crowded room with a lot of great people in there. But there was never a moment where I was like, man, I deserve more, because I look ahead and I see 15 people who are absolutely amazing. I did find myself wondering from time to time, they hired me and moved me to the city to do something, and the feedback I got was I was writing good stuff. I was getting cut at dress rehearsal. No one gets to see or hear about that, so it was hard to leave and not think I didn't get much of an at-bat. Can't be bitter about it, though. Sorry, Luke Null. I don't remember you at all. Anyway, he's at Dynasty Typewriter tonight in L.A. Oh, I didn't expect to do any of that. And that leaves me with 2 leftover stories for tomorrow. All right, that's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. See you tomorrow.